What up, reader fam? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be playing hit or miss with books I've read recently. I'm going to let you know if the books hit or if they missed. But I had to add in a third option because sometimes it doesn't quite hit, but it doesn't quite miss either. So we've got a middle ground here, and that is hit miss. A hit miss. Double whammy hit miss. Yeah, it was the best I could come up with. I'm not that creative these days. I mean, I could have just used the word neutral, but we're a unique butterfly on this channel, okay? I'm spreading my wings and I'm flying away. Also, do you guys like my crafting skills? Somebody just take the scissors away from me. Like, a kindergartner could have cut these out better than I did, okay? That's a sad fact, but it's fact. It's been a long time since I've talked about some of the books that I've read recently. Like, I think the last one I did maybe was February, so like, we've got some catching up to do, and like, I'm not even gonna be able to catch up to where I'm at currently with the books that I'm currently reading, the books that I've read pretty recently. So I'm just gonna be talking about 9 books that I've read not so recently and telling you if they hit, miss, or hit miss. Without further ado, let's get started. First up, this is not the Jess show. This story follows Jess, who's living in the 90s, but then one day her friend drops an iPhone out of her backpack and she picks it up and she's like, huh? What's this? Which the iPhone didn't come out till the 2000s, so there's no way that they would have one in the 90s. Jess, being unfamiliar with the object, begins to question what exactly is going on. Obviously, that's not the only thing that like sends her into like questioning. Like, there's tons of other things that are like, that's kind of sus. What's going on? Huh? This book really came through and slapped the nostalgia in my face and made me want to time travel back to the 90s, back to better days, back to when I was a child, a baby, a fetus. I will say that I much prefer the times we're living in now because I feel like we've made a lot of progress, but I just want my childhood back. I've found out very quickly that adulting is overrated. All adulting consists of is bills, bills, bills. And I'm over here like, pass, 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 please. This was not as mysterious as I was expecting it to be going into it. I was expecting a full-on mystery, but things are pretty much revealed like right away as to like what's happening. I would have preferred there have been more of a mystery edge when it came to the plot. I just really find like theorizing what's happening really fun, but this one kind of like sucked the fun right out of it because it just kind of like tells you everything. I feel like I spent a majority of the book just being mad on behalf of our main character in the situation that she's in. I was seething at certain points, like turning red, seething, taking deep breaths to kind of calm myself down because I was mad. I literally kept saying to myself, the audacity, the audacity, the audacity, as I read it. And finally, I hated the ending. I get having to suspend your disbelief sometimes, but really, if you want me to buy into a lie, you gotta be a better liar. All in all, I'm kind of in the middle here. I'm at the crossroads of the hit and miss, and that means it's a hit-miss. Not a full-on hit, not a full-on miss. I will say that I am eager to I just hit myself in the lip. I will say that I am eager to check out the sequel. I originally thought this was going to be a standalone, but joke's on me. We're getting a sequel, which actually I'm really excited about because I feel like the ending, I just like had some questions. I was like, how is this going to turn out? I feel like this ain't going to turn out very well. But like, I'm glad we're getting a sequel so I can have some answers and find out where things jump off from that ending. Next, the space between worlds. In this book, we have a multiverse and you can visit the different worlds so long as your doppelganger on the different world has passed away already. We follow Kara, whose doppelgangers are really good at dying. If they had to list off a talent, it would be dying. Pretty much giving her the opportunity to travel between a bunch of different worlds. But when one of her doppelgangers dies in a very sus way, investigating that death leads her to a secret. One that will leave her having to thread the future with the past. This book is slept on, and when I say that, I mean y'all are in a deep sleep. Slobbering all over the book, snoring on it, tossing and turning on it, and you need to come through and wake the heck up. Wakey, wakey. I love the idea of this like multiverse situation, and I felt like it was built up really well. The author did a great job of just kind of like really immersing you in that world and understanding it. You tie that together with a great plot that's super addictive. And when I say addictive, it's like when you start eating Cheetos and you reach inside the bag for another Cheeto and there's no Cheetos left, and that's because you've just been like chowing down. Who ate my Cheetos? Then you see all the orange dust on your fingers and you're like, oh yeah, it me. We have characters that we dive deep into, their past and their present, and it made it impossible for me not to care about the characters. Back at it again, caring for people that don't actually exist. Top that all off with the fact that this is a standalone. I am all about the low commitments here. The lower the commitment, the happier I will be. If it's a one and done deal, then I will one and done it. It's a hit for me, if you couldn't tell. It hit, hit, hit. Next up, The Gravity of Us. This story follows Cal, who must give up his life of being a very successful social media journalist after his dad receives a position on NASA's next mission. Cal and his family are quickly being thrust into this world that's being fully documented on reality TV. Cal would do anything to get out of this reality television show that's using him and his family's every move for entertainment. Cal feels like a puppet and he's tired of being used. After an accident occurs and secrets are revealed, it gives Cal an opportunity to take down the show forever. This is one of the more unexpected favorite books that I read this year. Mind you, it's not like die hard, love it, favorite, want to recommend it all day, every day, but like I really enjoyed it. I picked it up on a whim and found myself entangled in it faster than you can say gravity. Let's get one thing straight though, the main character was a bit of a douche. Like his poor bestie. Let's just say that he's the type to make everything about him. Not a good look, mate, change your fit, mate. It's like he knows he's the main character and just doesn't care about any of the side characters. But, it had such an entertaining plot with so many different dynamics. We have this family dynamic, which was really interesting. Kind of that family dynamic where you just have to go along with things, even if it's the last thing that you want to do. We have this like reality TV element, which is complete trash. Got a little bit of mental health that's being explored throughout the book, and I really liked that aspect within the story because it wasn't one of those situations where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in love, my depression is cured. Thankfully, it wasn't that way because that would have had me chucking the book right out of here. I will say that if you're going into this one expecting there to be a lot of focus on the space element, it's gonna be a miss for you because you really only see the behind the scenes bits and it's mostly focused on like the parents or mostly the daddy-o. The kids are mostly just like vibing, falling in love, having some drama as it goes. If you couldn't tell, it's a hit for me. Love when books hit. Not like physically hit, but like hit me in the heart. Next up, we've got King and the Dragonflies. After the death of Kingston's brother Khalid, he believes that his brother has transformed into a dragonfly. Grief has completely uprooted his family, and King fears that the secret he's been keeping, that being that he's gay, will only make things worse for his family if it's revealed. I really ended up enjoying this one. I feel like the author really did a good job of like tackling a bunch of different things and not doing it in a way where they like kind of brushed over certain things. Like they really delved in deep to every topic that was brought up. And it never felt like all those things were there just to be there. It felt like a natural progression of the story to include them. Sometimes people be loading up their book sandwiches with too many toppings and it just falls all over the floor as you try to put it in your mouth. That didn't happen here. It was a fully loaded book sandwich and it all made its way into my mouth. How about that? My one critique of this book is that I felt like sometimes the writing was a bit dry for me. That's also just me looking for critique crumbs. It's also a middle grade book, so like stylistically it's different from what I normally read. That's not to say it's poorly written either. I don't want to be misunderstood here. It just was different than what I'm used to. It was a hit for me, not a miss, a hit. Next up, we've got The Beauty That Remains. In this book, we follow three characters. Shay, whose twin sister passed away due to cancer. Autumn, whose best friend passed away in a car crash. And Logan, who lost his ex-boyfriend to suicide. Not only do they connect over the passing of their loved ones, but they also come together because of music. This one started out as a hit. I was excited, I was pumped, I thought I might have found myself a new favorite book. I loved the discussions on grief and seeing how all these different characters were kind of dealing with it and seeing how their experiences kind of differed from each other. But then it took a turn for me. It really said, you thought I was gonna be your favorite? Think again. There was just a specific scene that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and then also as the story progressed, I just found myself feeling like everything was a bit too much. Like I just kind of wanted it to kind of hone in a bit. While I felt like the characters did have very distinct personalities, a lot of the times I felt like their stories in general just kind of like mushed together in my mind. Mushy gushy. I think it does have to do with the fact that all the stories are similar, even though we're seeing them deal with them in different ways and deal with grief in a different way. They all are very similar because they all have lost somebody and they all deal with music. Overall, for me, this was unfortunately a miss. I hate when a book misses. I'm sorry. Next up, Chain of Iron. This is the second book in the Last Hours trilogy. It's got demons, Shadowhunter, mystery, romance, and a lot of other stuff. Was that the best description? Perhaps not, but you get the gist. I very rarely ever come out of a Cassandra Clare book being like, I hated that, but I unfortunately did not love this one. I'm sad about it. My expectations were up here, but the book just did not reach that level. It stayed on level 1. It was the most angsty YA book that I have read in a long time, and I couldn't handle it. It's a pass on the angst for me. Can we pull up to the angstless station for book 3, please? Because I don't want any more angsty situations. We've had the angst in here. No more in book 3, please. Even though I know there's gonna be so much more angst, because it's just like, it's leading in that direction. But can we just please keep this train a-moving? Move past it. Let's go. I think in general, though, for me, this one just focused too much on the romance. Like, yes, I know that is something to expect going into a Cassandra Clare book now. Like, I get it. Romance is a big thing in Cassandra Clare's books, and I get that. I know that going in, but this one was just too much romance for me. Like, typically, I love her books for the plot. And I don't mean the romance plot. I mean, like, the mystery, the action, all that jazz, the demons. Oh, yes, demons. Come at me, demons. Let's hunt you down, demons. That's the stuff that I love in a Cassandra Clare book. This one was just like romance, angst, frustration. I just felt smothered by the romance in this one. Like, full on dug into the romance jam and just smothered it all over me. I also felt like there was just just a lack of plot development. It really fell into like the middle book syndrome for me, where not a lot happens to push the actual plot. Is there some plot pushing? Yes, there is. But it just like wasn't enough for me. I feel like I'm such a grumpy grandpa right now talking about this, and I'm sorry if you love this book, but for me, it was a miss, unfortunately. Please, book 3, come through and just like blow me away. I'm gonna really lower my expectations for book 3, that's for sure. Next up, we've got The Sky Blues. This is a story about an openly gay boy living in a small town, and him feeling this kind of need to be quiet, keep himself in this reserved state, living in that small town. But he decides that it's time for him to be loud and proud, and he's going to do so when it comes to asking his crush to prom. He thinks up this big promposal idea, but before he's able to actually execute the idea, his plans are leaked in this super homophobic e-blast that goes viral. Him and his friends band together to figure out who's behind it and essentially take them down. This was such a great read. There were so many things about it that I loved. I loved the environment of the small town. I feel like it just does a fantastic job of kind of encapsulating what that's like living in a small town and kind of that like closed-minded area. It does a great job of being like a fun book, but also a sad book at the same time. Like it kind of meets the middle there. It's got that happy medium situation going for it, and it just does a great job of executing that, which is not always an easy thing to do. Like I feel like a book either leans all the way into the sad lane or it leans all the way into the happy lane, but this one does a really great job of like meeting that middle line. I just loved seeing our main character kind of like having this group of people just like back him up, and there's kind of this like found family situation happening, as our main character really doesn't have that family element. Doesn't really have a family. Like he has family, but they've kind of just like shoved him to the side and they don't really care about him. And it's nice to see that he's found his people outside of that, people that do consider him to be family. The one negative thing, or not even really negative, but the one thing that I feel like people will not enjoy about this book is that it's kind of open-ended a little bit. If you don't like open-ended endings, you might not like this ending. I mean, like we have quite a bit of closure in my opinion. There's like all these little subplots that aren't really fully closed out. But all in all, this book was a huge hit for me. Hit. Next up, Winter's Orbit. This is a sci-fi story about this prince that dies due to an accident and an arranged marriage to keep the peace in terms of politics. But when the prince's death is looked at a little bit more closely, it may have not just been an accident, and it perhaps was a murder. Oh gosh. If you've watched any of my recent videos, I feel like you already know my thoughts on this one, but I really loved it. I don't normally love sci-fi books, or I just have like a hard time getting into sci-fi books, but this one was just like so nice. It's a standalone. It was super easy to read. It wasn't like a book that went over my head and just confused the heck out of me, which is typically the situation when it comes to sci-fi. Like I usually go into a sci-fi knowing that like there's parts of it that I will just never understand, and that's okay. Not all of us have brains that are wired in the way that will understand a sci-fi book, and like that's me. It goes over the head. I can't help it. For me, it just had such an addictive writing style to it, both in the writing style and just the progression of the plot. Like it just did it for me. It did it for me. I will say that sometimes the plot kind of slowed down the pacing. I'll say mostly like the politics element, which I really enjoyed. The politics, the political intrigue, that was really fun for me to read, but it does slow things down quite a bit. Overall though, it was a hit. What did you expect? A miss? No, it's a hit. Hey! Lastly, we have here Happily Ever Afters. This story follows Tessa, who has just gotten into a creative writing program at this prestigious art school, but when she gets there, she's hit with a writing slump, full-on writer's block. Since she writes in the romance genre, her and her best friend come up with this plan that if she had her own romance to kind of use as inspiration, it would help her get out of this writer's block situation. So that's what she does. She sets out on a journey to find herself some romance. Wow. This is one of those books where in the moment I enjoyed it, but after kind of processing it and spending some time away for it, I realized that I'm just not a fan. That's not to say it was bad, because for me there was a plethora of things to enjoy with this book. The writing style was right up my alley, like it was infused with happiness. It was more so the plot that's kind of leaving me on the stinky opinion side of things here. For a book about a girl who's a writer who's in a creative writing program, there was a major lack of focus on writing itself. Mind you, I get that she's in a writing slump, but we didn't really see much of like the writing program itself, and I feel like I would have really enjoyed to have seen more of that. The thing that really just drove me crazy though and just kind of grinded my gears was this push that this girl had to be in a relationship with a guy that was already in a relationship with another girl. I was not having it. I will never be here for that kind of situation. It was just obnoxious to read about, especially because there was a guy just like right there that was available, that was perfectly fine, that she could have easily hopped into a relationship with, but no, she was pushing this guy who's already in a relationship. Like, let's stop doing that. Let's stop it, please. All in all, this was a miss for me. I do want to read the sequel though, because I'm curious as to where things go. So like, even though it's a miss, I'm still gonna read the sequel because I'm trash. All right, guys, those are some of the books that I read recently. I had some hits, I had some misses, and did I only have one Himis? I think I only had one Himis, but that's alright, that's okay. You guys should let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. I always love hearing from you guys. Also, let me know down below in the comments a book that you've read recently and if it was a hit, a miss, or a Himis. Let me know down below in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye. -oh. That's why I shouldn't do this anymore. That's why I should stop. Throw in the books and try to catch them. The book is fine. Wasn't hurt. I promise. I promise.